Welcome to Northlandia, a place to bring your curiosity because here you will find curiosities. I'm Wyatt Buckner with the Duluth News Tribune, and I will be your guide as we discover the unique and fascinating stories here in the Northland. Here we celebrate the region's distinctive people, places, and history. In this episode, we uncovered an old abandoned movie theater located 250 feet below an Iron Range city. Let's venture forth into Northlandia. To tell us more about this hidden theater, I'm joined again by reporter Jimmy Lovrien. Jimmy, welcome back to the Northlandia podcast.
Wyatt, it is good to be here.
So Jimmy, before we figure out exactly what's going on beneath this Iron Range city, how did you even find out about this?
Yeah, so I was watching an episode of Minnesota Historia. It's PBS North's, kind of feels like it's pretty related to Northlandia in a way because it follows the kind of the quirky history of things in Minnesota, and I really enjoy it. I've spoken to the host about a cow-moose hybrid Northlandia I did. She had posted about it, Haley, she had posted about it on Twitter, and I thought that would make a good Northlandia. So she's been in Northlandia before, and I'm a fan of Minnesota Historia, and I was watching an episode about Eveleth, the history of Eveleth, and some mysterious explosions that had happened related to this mine. And a detail of this spruce mine under Eveleth is that she had mentioned, hey, there's a theater down there. And it's an underground mine, and there's a theater in there. And I thought, hey, that's kind of cool. And I went down the rabbit hole of newspaper archives online and other mentions, and there's some photos out there. And so I thought, hey, this would be, again, inspired by Minnesota Historia. I thought, hey, this would make a good Northlandia. So that's kind of where I found it. It was a little nugget mentioned in an episode, and I chose to kind of expand on that.
Gotcha. And what exactly is this hidden theater?
Yeah, so it is the Wilsonian Auditorium. Now, listeners familiar with the Iron Range, might know the other auditoriums there. The Hibbing High School's got a grand ornate theater and auditorium with chandeliers, plasterwork. Virginia High School's auditorium is also like that, though it's soon going to be torn down. Anyway, those are ornate, grand, awesome spaces. The Wilsonian Auditorium is underground and is in an old pump house for the underground mine. So definitely not glamorous. It could fit about 200 people. It was 52 by 20 feet, and they would show safety films in there. And that's kind of how it began. But then they started to show occasional comedy, and then the miners would entertain each other afterwards. They'd, play their accordion and stuff. And so it kind of became a lunch time gathering space underground. And it was became a theater in 1925. And then one source I was talking to kind of lost track of it after 1940. There were, no mentions of it after that. And then the mine itself, the underground mine, closed by 1953. So that's what it is. It's an underground theater for miners, but it also hosted, the occasional, Rotary or Lions Club kind of the civic group would go down there. There was a tour of a basketball team went down there and toured it. The Oliver Mining executives and went down there and there's this photo of servers all dressed up, and sitting at the table there are some men in suits and some men in kind of coverall jumpsuit kind of things that clearly a miner would wear. So it's just an interesting contrast there. But yeah, that's a little theater deep down under Eveleth.
Gotcha. And what was the research process like for this? This sounds like it was fairly long ago now at this point, where at least over 70 years since it would have seemingly, it sounds like it was no longer used. So how did that process go about finding information for this underground theater?
Yeah, so thankfully, the Minnesota Historical Society maintains a newspaper. They call it the Digital Newspaper Hub. And there are issues of the Duluth Herald in there from that era, as well as the Eveleth News, and a few other newspapers that maybe would mention it for some reason. And so, and we have on Newsbank, and internally our archives capture kind of that era. They kind of drop off actually right about when this theater would have been made in the 20s, but for the News Tribune, that is. Anyway, so we've got a few different online archival sources that I was searching. Wilsonian Auditorium, some articles would mention it, and then I was searching Spruce Mine, and there's a lot about the Spruce Mine, and so I was trying to narrow it down if there was ever a theater mentioned in there or something like a term like that might appear in the article as well. And then there's the Iron Range Research Center in Chisholm at the Minnesota Discovery Center, formerly Iron World. They have some photos on the Minnesota Digital Library that anyone can go on that and look up old photos of their town. There's great images from all over Minnesota. There are a few images of miners posing for a photo down in the theater, some holding an accordion. And so they gave us permission to run those. And then there were kind of random other appearances that you could find just by Googling, Spruce Mine or Williamson Auditorium, that you could kind of come across. One such was a furniture trade publication out of Rockford, Illinois, which I guess was a big furniture town. And they had an article with a pretty good description of this theater, because they were proud that their film about furniture called Happiness played in the Underground Theater, which is a film about the furniture making process, beginning with cutting down a tree and following it along the manufacturing process until it was a piece of furniture arriving at the home of a newly married couple. So that was one of the films shown. And so there were just kind of some odds and ends out there that give you a pretty good idea of what this was. But then also Tucker Nelson, who's a Iron Range historian, he spoke with me, and he has kind of done quite a bit of research both on this and kind of Eveleth, his hometown in general, and the Spruce Mine. And so he was also an excellent resource and kind of could fill in some gaps that the online archives maybe left me at.
Mm-hmm. So at the time, was there no theater topside that kind of made the need for an underground one? It just seemed like it'd be easier to have a theater above ground than within the mine itself.
So the superintendent of the mine wrote to this furniture publication, and he was saying that they had been showing these films for a while, the safety films to workers and whatnot, and they would put up a projector in shops or garages or, quote, eating houses in the open pit working. So we're talking about underground mine here. There was also a open pit mining happening here as well. And so there'd be eating houses, I guess, spread throughout. Anyway, so they were showing films already for a few years. And this, when the pump house opened up, another superintendent by the name of Joseph Wilson, who the Wilsonian Auditorium, it's his namesake, I guess, kind of thought, hey, we've got this empty pump house, let's use it for something, and so it became a theater.
So what exactly became of the theater? Like, I know it's been in disuse now, but I think I had asked you, like, are we able to go visit it? And you're like, no. You shut that down pretty quick.
Yeah. So the underground mine was closed by 1953, and there is an open pit mine above it, which was open for a bit longer, but yeah, no, it's you can't access it. I mean, it's probably underwater. These underground mines tend to fill with water, so that I don't know that for sure, but that's probably a pretty good guess. Is that since they're not actively pumping, they're probably filled with water. Don't know if it was ever dismantled before they abandoned it or not, but yeah, no, you can't go to it anymore. Tucker Nelson, the historian I was talking about, he said that he kind of came across this theater because people started to talk about it on a local Eveleth Facebook group or page, and they were kind of tongue-in-cheek saying, oh, we got to get IRRB money and open this up back up. Let's go find it and open it back up. This would be great, and they're kind of joking about it. But yeah, that's not going to happen. So yeah, no, it is. Don't try to find it. You'll be in danger and you can't see it.
But how cool would that be to have like an officially sanctioned excavation to go uncover? I mean, we can combine forces with historian Northlandia and the IRRB, and we'll just venture down in there and uncover this hidden theater.
Exactly. We can go watch films about how furniture is made.
That'd be the weirdest end of that story.
Yeah.
Getting all that down there and you watch a furniture
just the most anticlimactic journey to the center of the earth.
That one would definitely be, it's about the journey, not the destination in that regard.
Right. But, if people do want to check out what an underground mine is like, Tower Sudan Underground State Park, I think is the name. Anyway, it's in Sudan, or Tower. They're kind of next to each other. Anyway, go check that out. You get to go ride the old shaft down into, I don't know how far down you are, but it's pretty far down, and you get to ride on a cart, train kind of through the underground system. And yeah, so if you want to get a taste of what the underground mining world was like, you can do it legally and safely at that state park over in Tower Sudan.
Mm-hmm. And throughout all of your research, was there anything particularly interesting or odd that stood out to you?
I thought the performance aspect of it was interesting. That they would kind of gather over the lunch hour, over noon hour, and watch a film, usually safety film, and then the second half of that would be them entertaining each other with an accordion is what the instrument that was mentioned most, or if only, it was the accordion. And so at the time, this is the 1920s Iron Range. There are a lot of immigrants from all throughout Europe there, and maybe they're first generation, maybe second generation at that point. But they're playing, as Tucker told me, they're playing folk music, probably not popular music at the time, probably their folk music that them and their families had brought over with them. And so that part I thought was really cool.
Well, I would say that music was and is a very important part of the ethnic heritage of the range, which is perhaps slowly being diluted, but people are still proud of their ethnicity in that they're proud of what their ancestors did to come to America. Mm-hmm. They're proud to be Norwegian, Croatian, Slovenian, and in the very early days of the Iron Range, when the immigrants hadn't learned English yet, their common language, their music, was one of the things that connected them.
There are mentions of the Spruce Mine Orchestra that I found a lot, and I don't know if they were a proper orchestra as you would think of today, or if this was several of the miners who regularly performed down there,
like an unofficial orchestra.
But they would go and play events, up upon, not underground. They would go play like Rotary Club events and meetings and city picnics types of things. So I don't know if they formed down there or not. Another thing Tucker told me was that the Tomi Tomar Trio was one of the groups that often played down there in the mine, and he found another name for it. They were sometimes referred to as the Spruce Mine Trio, and they would often play at these same events I was mentioning. This Spruce Mine Orchestra played at, and so we're not sure if this is the Spruce Mine Orchestra is actually also the Spruce Mine Trio, which is also the Tomi Tomar Trio. Unclear exactly if this orchestra is also another name for this group, but they anyway, this Spruce Mine Trio and Spruce Mine Orchestra would go and play events, civic events, and for civic groups throughout Eveleth and maybe the Iron Range as well.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So normally towards the end of the episode here, I'd ask, something along the lines of, why do you think it fits in Northlandia? This seems pretty self-evident. It definitely seems like an odd thing to have a theater located 200 feet underground in a mine that miners would play accordions in, and as well as watching safety videos about furniture, I guess. So like the oddity of it definitely feels very self-evident. But I guess beyond that though, why do you think it's important that people know about this oddity? I certainly didn't know about it.
Oh, well, I think the Iron Range to a lot of people is above ground mines, what they see today, taconite mining and pelletization and everything. But, prior to that, underground mines were, a lot of things started as underground mines. And there are no operating underground mines, but, that is interesting, got to kind of think about that. And so to throw a theater in there just makes it a little weirder. And I think just makes it that, more that much more interesting. I don't know. There's something to say about wondering what's under your feet. Occasionally there will be a underground mine that causes some surface disturbance and and stuff like that they need to shore up. And there's been a lot of mapping done of these underground mines to make sure that they know where they're at, so there aren't problems caused on roads or otherwise. But I think that part of it, knowing that there's miles and miles and miles of underground mines down there, is cool to think about, and to think that one time there were movies and accordion performances as well. It just makes it all that the more interesting.
Mm-hmm. Covering mining like you do, could you ever imagine something like that ever happening again, and them building another theater in one of the current operating mines that then a new next generation of reporters will be talking about 70 years from now?
I don't know how well an entertainment venue in the middle of a industrial site would go over these days. There are break rooms and otherwise, but the safety aspect of it, this still exists. I don't know how, there's safety videos and safety trainings all the time, but there's no movie theater that I'm aware of in any of these open pit mines or pellet plants. But if a listener is aware of something interesting, let me know. But I'm think things are a little more stringent these days, and probably for the best.
Yeah, probably. But I think we'll wrap it up there, Jimmy. Thanks so much for bringing this. Certainly an oddity this time around.
Thanks, Wyatt.
And thank you for joining us on this venture into Northlandia. To read the article for this week's column and to see archival photos of the theater, visit duluthnewstribune.com/topics/Northlandia. You can find all the episodes of Northlandia on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you or someone you know has a unique story that you believe can have a place here in Northlandia, let us know by emailing northlandia@duluthnews.com. Join us again next week and discover the extraordinary stories that you just might miss if you're not in the right place at the right time, ready to step off the beaten path with no rush to return, here in Northlandia.